Hi, everybody. Welcome to our live demo today, where we're going to be talking about from backup to bulletproof and how unlocking cyber resilience with AWS and Veeam Data Cloud make things a lot simpler for you guys out there. My name is Colin Hanks. I am a senior manager of product marketing here at Veeam, and joining me today is Hani Imam, our senior sales system engineer. Hani, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, Colin?
Doing great. I'm excited to kind of show everybody this Vault demo.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really quick demo, just showing how quick and easy it is to set up a repository in the cloud to be used to safeguard the backups.
Awesome. Well, everyone, before we get started into the demo, I did just want to go through a couple of slides to give everyone a quick refresher on really, what that hybrid cloud reality looks like when we're talking about moving to the cloud and what a little bit about Vault. So let's jump right into it and get started. So today there's this huge hybrid cloud reality that I think a lot of organizations are faced with, and a lot of what we hear out in the market. And really that centers around these three main points here on the screen. So one, it's really around those fragmented environments, how that on-prem and cloud workloads are truly managed in these silos within an organization, and how those do create those blind spots and gaps when it comes to having protection. So instead of having something that's super consistent, it becomes that inconsistent aspect of it. And then secondly, there's this whole growing threat surface that we look at, right? So there's ransomware, there's outages that don't really respect environmental boundaries, right? So your recovery strategy really has to end up covering both sides of that coin, when in reality, the best scenario would be to try and avoid that. And then finally, there's that rising recovery cost. So when we look at that, it's really around this complex backup sprawl that really drives up that operational overhead and takes focus away from really building the business and focusing more in on, how you can really reduce those costs and kind of reduce that burden on your teams. And really the reason why we're all here is really around Veeam Vault, right? So it's this secure cloud storage that we say is made easy, and that's fully true. So what I want to introduce to you guys here is Veeam Vault, and it really is that truly simple. So it's secure cloud storage without that added complexity. So like I said, most organizations that, they already know that they need something as far as an offsite backup. But the challenge really lies around how to do that without building and managing it themselves. So with Vault, what we've been able to do is create this purpose-built solution specifically for that problem. And it's not just storage, it's storage designed specifically for backup as well as recovery. So instead of stitching together these cloud services and your policies and security controls, we deliver this all in one solution ready to go out of the box. So with Veeam Vault, like I said, it's secure cloud storage made easy. And the three main points to drive home here really reside around this faster path to cyber resilience, where, like I said, it's pre-configured for you. It's not built from scratch. So there's no ongoing tuning or maintenance that you have to do. It's all ready to go out of the box. It has built-in security with that ongoing tuning, so you don't have to do it, giving you guys a faster path to value with less of that operational overhead. So again, really being able to allow you guys to focus in on those business outcomes and the things that are going to make your business scale, rather than these operational issues that might occur. And then there's this whole aspect of being a fully secured for you by default. So with our solution, it's air gapped from production to isolate those backups from any potential issues that could occur within your production environment. It's immutable for that clean recovery that you can trust. And it's encrypted always in flight and at rest for that data privacy that you can count on. And finally, really going back to that like the cost issues that we talk about when it comes to cloud storage solutions, our solution is predictable and it's all inclusive. So you get to avoid that bill shock. So there's zero infrastructure to procure, manage, and maintain. Veeam does all of that for you. It's all inclusive. So instead of having to worry about storage and API calls and egress, that does kind of cause those bills to accelerate very quickly, it's all included, no additional costs. So it's predictable that you can actually plan around. So that is some of the main things here that we like to talk about Vault. But one thing I want to highlight here is that it's more than just an offsite backup. It provides you that cloud disaster recovery. So we give you that direct restore to AWS in just minutes. We eliminate that expense of hot sites, colos, and idle computes, and give you that sustained resilience when running with the same solution. We additionally give you that ransomware readiness with Vault. So you have that cloud clean room isolated from your production so that you can verify recovery and make sure that what you're putting back into your environment is ready to go and has not been corrupted. It gives you that automation puts through the routine testing. And it's tamper proof. So like I said before, it's always air gapped, immutable, encrypted. So no matter what, it's separated from production. It's isolated from anyone being able to touch it, say a ransomware attack, and it's always encrypted. And finally, we give you that compliant retention that we know is a huge thing, especially today when it comes to cloud storage solutions. So we give you the ability for data residency, which is addressed through 60 plus regions globally when you work with Veeam. And we also have those policy automation scales so that retention and deletion. But most importantly, I think it's audit ready with detailed logs and access and action. So we know that there's constantly changing laws and things like that. And when it comes to being audited, companies are always, freaking out. So we always make sure that you're audit ready when it matters most. But enough about what Vault is. Let's talk about what it can do. So I'm going to turn it over to Hani now so we can actually do a product walkthrough so you can see it for yourself as how easy and simple this solution is to get set up and activate. Hani, I'll turn it over to you.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'll start sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep, we can see it.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks for that walkthrough, Colin, and introduction to Vault. Right now, I'll just walk through how easy it is to actually put that concept into work and how we can apply this to the Word and protect those backups. So right now, I'm just going to show how quick and easy it is to set up an air-gapped immutable bucket that can be immediately used to secure and safeguard your backups against any ransomware attacks or protect you against from disaster scenarios, providing you also as well with accidental deletion protection or whatever the case might be that you might require to perform a restore. And initially, once you subscribe to Vault and you procure your consumption, you'll get a welcome email that will direct you to cloud.veeam.com, which will take you to our Veeam Data Cloud 1 UI. Basically, here you'll get access to all our as-a-service solutions that Veeam offers today. This solution is as well growing today. We're hoping to have multiple more tiles added by the end of this year. But our conversation today, we're going to focus on Vault. Initially, what we're going to be needing to do when we first procure is just add a tenant in here. We'll give this a tenant a name here just for the demo purposes, and then from here we can select which subscription do we want to consume. We can have up to 7 different subscriptions that have different storage capacities so that we can leverage regions from across the globe as well. And then here we'll give that Vault storage account a name, choose the country where we want to have that spun up. It is not there is no limitation on which country you will be choosing or which region to choose where your backups can be stored under a single subscription. You can have multiple vaults created. We'll select those regions. We'll go into next. This will show us a summary of what we've selected. And then we can click on finish. This will create your S3 bucket that's going to be managed by Veeam for you, secured by default, to eliminate those fragmented environments where you might have to involve like different team members from your organization to create the S3 bucket that might be covering the cloud for you. So with this solution, like kind of eliminates the single backup admin can manage those cloud storages that are going to be used for backups. Now, once we have that created, we can dive into our tenant and look at monitor the consumption across that tenant, how much is being used across those storage accounts or S3 buckets, and we can see we have those created in multiple regions. I have one in Europe as well. So there isn't like you're not really locked down to where those S3 buckets can be created within a subscription. And then we can go into the workload registration over here. We can see what Veeam Backup Replication servers or Veeam servers have access to Vault in here to add it as a repository. At this point, we're really actually ready to start adding that S3 bucket as a target repository to start writing backups into it. And, all right. If we move on to our Veeam Backup Replication, this is the Linux server. It works as well like on the Windows server, regardless which Veeam flavor you're using. We'll navigate to the repositories and go into the Veeam Data Cloud Vault so that we can add Vault as a repository. If this is the first Veeam Data Cloud Vault repository that you're adding to your Veeam server, you'll have a different screen over here showing to get access. That's the button that we really need to click on, which doesn't really give you access to a Veeam, but like just walks you through the wizard of adding Vault as a repository. We'll give that repository a friendly name. And then initially we'll need to authorize the server. Authorization creates a registration code, which we can copy, click on the Veeam Data Cloud Vault, which will take us to the registration page. And we can paste that token in there to register our Veeam server into our Veeam Data Cloud organization. Once that registration passes, your Veeam server will have access into the Vault subscription to see the Vault storage accounts that are created. Initially, we'll only see one that's added. We can manage and give access to multiple storage accounts from here, where we can see which are available. Click on assignments. This is the Veeam server that I was working through. I can click on assign, continue. And now if I go back to my Veeam Backup Replication server and do a refresh, I should be able to see the other Vault storage account that was just assigned to this server. So this is one way that you can kind of lock down certain Vault storage accounts to different sites. If you have different Veeam servers and different sites and you wanted to block access to different sites. And then from there, we're going to choose the connection mode. How are we connecting to the S3 bucket? Are we using the Veeam server or leveraging a gateway server? Depending on the use case, one way or the other might work. Now next, within that S3 bucket, we're going to be looking to create a folder inside of that S3 bucket. And that's basically where our backups are going to reside. We can create multiple folders within that S3 bucket that will act as different repositories to our Veeam server. And I'm sorry, I don't know why it's getting this error right now. But once we select that folder from here, some of the options that we can as well do is limit the object storage consumption on that repository. Nature of the beast of S3, it comes with unlimited storage, despite what your subscription amount is. You still have access to go over that subscription amount, but to limit what's being consumed, you can enable this option and select a specific storage amount to make sure that the backups do not consume over that. What happens basically once we reach that limit is we put a soft stop on the backup job that's targeting this repository until retention takes place or some manual deletions is performed. Basically, some space gets freed up, and then the backup job resumes. If we keep this unchecked, we can keep on consuming the storage, no problem. By default, backups in Vault are going to be immutable. We can set a retention policy, and as well by default we have the retention policy set to the same period as the backup jobs, but you can set a different immutability retention policy so that you can have a little bit more freedom with your backups to perform tasks on them, whether that's like earlier cleanups as well, so that you're not locked into the immutability period. And from there, basically, really, it's the next step. We're going to be just setting up the mount servers for Windows or Linux restores. But that's pretty much it for adding Vault. At that point, we have a Vault repository that we can store our backups in an immutable fashion. It's going to be as well encrypted, which I will kind of like as well show how that encryption is enforced on the software level to make sure we're not leaving any security gaps open. So one of the ways that we can leverage Vault with a Veeam server is through scale-out backup repositories. And again, we can add it into the capacity extent. So just choose an on-prem repo for the performance tier. We can adjust the placement policy. But basically over here, once we get into the capacity tier, we can select Vault on AWS, hit add, choose how do we want the data to be moved into Vault, whether it's through a copy policy, immediately copying the data as soon as it lands on-prem, or just, are we moving it after a certain set of days? And then we can go click on next. But nope, actually we've missed one step, which is encryption. Encryption is going to be enforced. If I was to choose a different repository, encryption wouldn't be, I wouldn't be enforced like to enable encryption.
And real quick, Hani, before you like move on, when it comes to encryption and like who actually holds those encryption keys, is that going to be Veeam? Is it going to be, you know, AWS? Is that the customer? How does that actually work?
That's a great question. So, you know, encryption is enforced like to make sure that no unauthorized access to those backups is allowed. So to help with that, encryption keys are going to be managed through the customers. They'll set those encryption keys. They'll store them. Veeam won't have access to them, and we won't they won't be shared as well with S3. They'll be stored on the Veeam database. So we'll just need to set it up once on the Veeam server, what encryption keys to be used. And then as you're setting up your scale-out backup repository, or whenever in the next steps, I'll show it as well, like whenever we're creating a backup job, that's where we'll select which encryption keys to use. Great question. All right, so that's scale-out backup repository. Another way to leverage Veeam Data Cloud Vault is through backup jobs, where we can just write backups directly to Veeam Data Cloud Vault. Again, we'll choose we'll create a backup job here, choose some workloads to protect with this policy, and then choosing the storage. This is an on-prem storage. If I was to click next, I can go to the next step, no problems. But if I was to choose Vault and I was to click on next, encryption is going to be enforced. And again, that's how encryption is enforced on the software level. It's not like it doesn't require like you to remember or anything. So offloading some of those tasks that needs to be remembered to make sure that the data is secured and safeguarded against any ransomware attacks or unauthorized access. And the final way that we can as well leverage Vault is through backup copy jobs. If you're looking to have an additional copy, which is similar to what would be set up on a scale-out backup repository. But that's really the gist of it, of what Vault is. We set up Vault, we've added Vault as a repository into Veeam Backup, to the Veeam Backup Replication server. Vault is supported with with all of like the Veeam data platform solutions. So it can be used as a target to make sure that your backups are immutable, encrypted, and protected against ransomware attacks. We have a hand raised. Is there a question?
Yeah. So one thing that's come up is, when like who manages the, like from an, I guess from an operational standpoint, like who's managing the underlying infrastructure? Again, does that, go back to Veeam? Does that go back to AWS? Is that like a customer focus area? Who would be that person?
Yeah. So the hardware itself is all managed by AWS. That's what we're leveraging AWS at scale to grow and provide the AWS capabilities as well to our end users at a less management overhead model, where we're actually creating everything on the back end and just presenting it as an endpoint within the Veeam Data Cloud UI. So in short, the hardware is all managed through AWS. How the infrastructure is presented to the end users or like to our Veeam customers is all managed through Veeam. Security best practices are all applied through Veeam.
Noted. Thank you. And I think another question that's come up is more around the like data residency and availability side. So when we're looking at data replication, is data replicated within the region? Is it cross zone or cross region? And is that something that's configurable, or is it completely fixed and no changes are allowed?
So it's fixed, and it comes there's no additional configuration that's really required to be done by the user. We like leveraging S3 data is already replicated across the zone. 3 copies are going to be replicated across the zone. We're leveraging S3 infrequent access, so data is going to be copied to multiple different data centers within the region. Where the data centers, there's like at least 10 miles difference between each data center.
Okay, noted. And are you able to show how, like, from an operational standpoint, like how is consumption reported? Is it by tenant? Is it going to be by your backup job, or is it specific to workload type?
So there's multiple ways we can actually get this type of information. Sorry, I got timed out in here. Just log in one more time. So we can view it through the Veeam Data Cloud console by tenant, and then as well we can dive into the tenant and see the consumption through within the S3 bucket. And then if we go back to the Veeam Backup Replication server, we can look at what the backups themselves are actually consuming per backup job or per even object within the backup job. So here from a tenant level, I can see this tenant is consuming 6 terabytes. No, that's the subscription that we're looking at. But we can look at these S3 buckets themselves. Actually, let me pull up a better, maybe one that's being used more with the storage accounts across. So here we can see, we can track more of the consumption based on storage accounts.
Noted. Okay, awesome. And then a couple other questions that have come in. So one person is asking, is there option for dual authorization or approval workflows for backup deletions?
For backup deletions, there is a new Veeam Backup Replication feature which requires 4 eyes for some security changes. We'll have to work with your sales account just to see if that all actually applies on the backup level, or if it's just more on a security settings that are changed on the Veeam Backup Replication, but I'm not aware of it being applied on a job level. I know it's more on security settings that on the server itself.
Noted. Okay. And then another one we have is this person wants to back up emails and SharePoint to and from Azure, or from Azure to AWS S3 through Veeam through VBR. Is that possible?
If they're running like on VMs, if like you're running those servers, that's possible. If you're looking to protect your M365 service itself, we can protect that through Veeam Data Cloud M365, though we will not be able to send those to S3. We'll need the hosted solution, the Veeam Backup for Office 365, to send those backups to S3.
Noted. Thank you. And then I think one other question we have is, although yes, this is an AWS focused demo, but they are curious about being able to see if Veeam can back up their Microsoft Azure data.
Yeah, we can definitely back up Microsoft Azure data. There are multiple ways that we can protect those natively and through agents, targeting different locations, sending those backups to AWS or any of your other cloud choice.
Awesome. And then I think one final question I have is really, Hani, from like I think a competitive, standpoint is, we look at S3, we look at Azure, we look at all these other cloud storage solutions, and how does Vault compare to a customer just using an S3 compatible target that they manage themselves? Like what would the actual delta in value be for a customer?
Well, we'll start with the easy one, which is cost, and I didn't really get the chance to really show that in my demo, but you've kind of like pointed to it in like the benefits of Vault is through the predictable cost, and that's one of the ways that we're competing against like do-it-yourself. Is we're able to provide like a more discounted price and a more predictable pricing through a flat rate, which is just based on terabytes consumed, without having to worry about like the hidden cost of like APIs, the immutability cost, restore fees. All of those are embedded within our like single cost that's based on per terabyte, providing you those access to be able to restore at no additional fees. So that's like one way that we're presenting more value. We're able to also get like better pricing from AWS, just given the scale that we're acquiring storage. So that's how we're able to present that as well to customers through a discounted price. And then when it comes to like the technical aspect of it, you're having a single, like you're dealing with a single vendor, whether it's like for support cases, helping with like any setup, making sure like the integration together is working. Like you don't have to deal with multiple vendors that are going to be pointing fingers at each other and saying like you're the issue, like no, here's the issue. It's a single support team that you have to deal with. We'll look at like the logs, and we can figure out like what the issue is or could be that's causing the errors that might be arising. So value comes in from like cost, like having to deal with a single support team, and as well as the security that's out of the box. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to make sure that anything is configured correctly. Everything will be configured with security best practices in mind for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Hani. I appreciate you going through this demo with us today. Any other last comments you want to make for the audience in regards to Vault and specifics around AWS?
No, I think the questions that we got in from the audience were great, helped cover some points that I think I've missed as well, like to cover during my demo. But yeah, if there's like any other questions that we can answer while we're here, I don't see anything else in the questions, but
yeah, I think we'll I think we got a bunch of good questions today. And again, thank you everyone for attending today. And we'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions when it comes to Vault, to AWS, or any other Veeam solutions that we have available to you today, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're always happy to talk through that, give everyone a demo like we just did, and really do some more hands-on conversations when it comes to one-to-one. So thank you, Hani. Appreciate you kind of, again, going through this demo, talking us through this, and hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks all.